Here's Brody Brazil.
So as it relates to possible NHL expansion, I feel like that topic is always just on the back burner. It doesn't entirely go away, but it's not necessarily at the forefront. It's something that's always on our radar. But specifically, the chance of the NHL coming back to Atlanta, being there for a third time, it feels like this topic emerges, it starts to heat up, and then it kind of simmers down and goes away for a while. Not that it's stalling out or not being worked on behind the scenes. It's just in terms of attention and the forefront, it presents itself and then it kind of goes away. And now it's presenting itself again, but on a more specific timeline, which I'll get to in just a second. The people behind one of the NHL to Atlanta projects, there's multiple projects, they're kind of saying that they will make their push to this man, Gary Bettman, and the other board of governors as soon as the Stanley Cup final is over. Here's what Gary Bettman said, though, a handful of days ago, basically within the last week. I think this was during one of the playoff games down in Florida he was there for. Here's what he said about Atlanta, and obviously he's in the vicinity, he's in the geography of the southeast quadrant of the U.S., so media there are asking him about Atlanta. He says, quote, "It's a different place than when the Flames and Thrashers left in terms of how big the city is, how robust it is, the sporting interest. I don't think the prior two visits, like teams in Atlanta, have any bearing on whether or not we would go back. If all the other pieces that are referred to were put together." End quote. I'll get to those other pieces in just a second, but first let's take away the quote, the statement. Even without seeing him say this, you can understand the body language was probably such that this kind of opens the door to Atlanta. Like, this is not a closed door statement. This is not a closing things off statement. This is not even a neutral statement, in my opinion. This is kind of an encouraging statement if you're somebody who wants to see the NHL go back to Atlanta. In terms of those three main things that the commissioner was referring to there, Gary Bettman was talking about this. Number one, strong ownership, an NHL-sized arena is number two, and third off, a robust market and a team that would enhance league revenue. Basically, good people behind a building that's got, the legs to do this and a situation that's great, and then a team that is not going to be a burden on the league, a team that is like a sure thing, can't miss situation for the league to enhance its brand, its revenue, and all of the above. And so, look, nothing is a 100% guarantee in all of this, but you're kind of looking for these certainties. If the NHL is going to expand, they're going to vet the entire situation on those main pieces. I mentioned before that when we talk about the NHL to Atlanta, for a while, it's been multiple groups. In fact, even more than this, but I want to narrow it down to the two frontrunners. We talk about the Alpharetta Sports and Entertainment Group that's led by Anson Carter. They have aimed their sights literally on a site at the North Point Mall in Alpharetta. So they're very specific in what they're trying to do, where they're trying to do it. But this group right here is kind of behind the gathering at South Forsyth. This group right here, led by Vernon Krause, who I believe is in the automotive industry, that's where he's done well with his business. They're aiming towards an 18,000-seat arena plus a mixed-use development north of Atlanta, and they have the backing now of Forsyth County, right? So that's something that the Alpharetta Group doesn't necessarily have right now, is the government tie-in of the site and all the funding and things behind it. So the gathering at South Forsyth is kind of the group that's ahead of everybody else right now. They're the ones that are going to pitch themselves to Gary Bettman here as soon as the Stanley Cup final is over. You'll hear that in just a second. But just to kind of give you the timeline of South Forsyth, in November of 2024, there was a vote granted for county redevelopment powers over the site, meaning that the county, Forsyth County, now has the ability to zone this differently. They've already done that. There it is, January 2025. They've already approved the 100-acre zoning overlay, so that's been changed. There's some basically teamwork going on here with the people who want this project to happen and the county who also needs to be part of it. Forsyth County also set a maximum contribution at $225 million for the project. It's bonds that would be paid back in an estimated 12 to 15 years. Okay, so I can talk about this at length. It's not necessarily about the site. It's more about what this group actually intends on doing from here on out.
We now have the county, Forsyth County, that has
given us the go-ahead and the okay on our property and the zoning that we needed to build an arena. Of course, they created a tax allocation district to pay for the bonds needed to build this arena, and I think now the next step is for us to go up to New York and meet with the commissioner of the NHL and show them what we have in place with the county in hopes that they vote for expansion.
It's kind of like one of those classroom assignments where everybody's given the same task, and then if you're done with your work and you're ready to bring it up to the teacher and show the teacher, hey, did I get it right? Am I first? Am I the winner of this? And yeah, I mean, for Atlanta and this group to be ready to pitch it and propose it to Gary Bettman and the NHL, that's kind of a big deal. Like, I don't think they would be doing this unless they felt like everything was in line for them to move forward.
You say you're in the home stretch. That's what we're all hoping for, obviously. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, when I say home stretch, there's certain criteria that we have to meet even to apply for an expansion franchise. And that was purchasing land, getting the zoning that we needed. Both of those have been accomplished.
Yep.
And so once we got the county vote, getting definitive documents done, which our lawyers are working on, that we can present to the NHL, and talking with our investors that we've been talking with over the last couple of years.
Huge part.
And being able to present what I would call a completed package to the NHL. And so when I say home stretch, I think once the NHL playoffs are over, once the Stanley Cup has been, the finals have been completed, then we'll be ready to go to New York and present our package and make our case to the commissioner that he will then take to the executive committee of the NHL and make our case for a team in Atlanta.
So it really is like that homework assignment or that classroom assignment, and it's complete, and it needs to have everything put together in the right way. Now, I do want to point out the investor part of this. Look, that's another added element here. It's not just Vernon Krause and his group, but it's also all the other investors that need to be part of this. And it's kind of like a juggling act. You're trying to get the county on board. You're trying to get the investors on board. You're trying to get the NHL on board. And we can get to the whole Atlanta or not conversation in just a second. I know there's a lot of you watching this saying, wait, I don't even support the NHL going back to Atlanta for a third time. Why is this time any different? Hang on. We'll get to that. Let Atlanta speak here for just a second. But you can understand how difficult that is, right? To have all these things moving parts at once to then try and pitch to the NHL and have it all line up at the exact same time.
Another ownership group trying to bring the NHL to the Atlanta area. There are now multiple trying to vie for an NHL team to return to this state. Why would yours be the right one?
Well, number one, we have land in a great area, and I think that and yes, there are other competitors, but they have to meet the same criteria that we meet.
Sure.
They have to own land in an area that's attractive to the NHL. I think that everyone's acknowledged that the reason for failure in the past has been that the arena was located in downtown.
Yeah.
And we're building, and our land is not in the downtown area. So if other competitors have land, we don't know about it at this point, so we think that we're in a good place.
That was a flex right there. We're ahead of everybody else. Basically, that's it. We've got the best plan. We're ahead of everybody else. We've got things more settled and secured. And look, I do think the NHL should do some diligence in all of this. Just because somebody turns in their assignment first doesn't mean it's the best spot. But in this case, maybe it is. And maybe that's why the NHL is already kind of hinting that, well, this time would be different for Atlanta.
Okay, last question for you. I know last year I asked you this, and you felt like you were pretty confident that you were going to get a hockey team. Are you still very confident?
Yes, very confident. Our team wouldn't be working this hard if we didn't believe that that was a real possibility.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's why they're working so hard on this, because they can see some light at the end of the tunnel. They can see a little bit of promise there, maybe by Gary Bettman, that at least Atlanta will get a fair shake. Here are my takeaways from all of this. Number one, I mean, the NHL worked so hard, so diligently to get to 32, which, as I keep talking about, is the perfect symmetrical number for a pro sports league in North America. Why? 2 conferences, each with 16 teams, 4 divisions, each with 8 teams. My math right there? Yes, it is. The playoffs are easy, 16 teams. Everything is an even number. As soon as you go to 33, or maybe even 34, if it's Atlanta and it's Houston. But my goodness, what about Arizona? More on that in just a second. At some point, you got to have a plan here. If you're going to go past 32, in my opinion, you got to go straight to 36. Not to say that all those teams get implemented in the same year or even sequential years, but you just have to say, all right, in the next 8 years, we're going to expand from 32 to 36. That's a lot, all in one short period. It's been done before, but there's also no other pro sports league in North America, major one, that has more than 32 teams. So the NHL is kind of going past where anybody else is right now. Is expansion for the league a 2-year thing, a 5-year thing, a 10-year thing? I mean, I think they're in a decent position to do this right now, but what's the urgency? What's the pressing need beyond getting all the teams to share that expansion fee, whatever that expansion fee now is? I mean, if it was $500 and $700 million, what was it for the Golden Knights and Kraken? You'd have to think, right? For Atlanta and Houston, it's probably going to be in the ballpark, be in the neighborhood of a $1 billion expansion fee. You'd have to think in this day and age. Should new cities get a first shot before Atlanta gets a third chance? And I know that is the main criticism. It already didn't work twice. As Mr. Krause said there, a large part of that is believed to be location. It's not the market. They support other teams. They've got baseball. They've got basketball. They've got football. Hockey just didn't get a fair shot before. And look, I can understand that. I can agree with that. I do think there's a lot of the proper things that happen at Atlanta from a standpoint of community, from business to just the amount of people there, the right demographics to bring in a successful hockey franchise and a fan base. But I also want to point out that same thing could be said about Arizona. And the Coyotes are no longer for a very unfortunate reason. And so my point here is that I'm willing to make a deal with anybody who really wants the NHL in Atlanta. I'd be okay with that so long as Arizona is part of this too, right? Because I don't feel like they got a fair shake. They had the team ripped away from them. It's one thing if a team was kind of pushed out or moved out and it didn't work over time, and maybe that's the case in Atlanta multiple times over, but I do feel like if we're just going to be expanding, and not arbitrarily, but if we're going to be expanding with some intention, there should be some attention to Arizona and maybe what they've gone through and why they could be successful all over again if done right. But I think the last thing here is no matter what market we're talking about, whether it's Atlanta or Houston or Arizona again, and it goes back to the whole debate of, going back to cities we've already been to versus trying out new cities in the mix and getting some fresh blood and spreading hockey to new places. I do understand that too, but no matter where we're talking about here, it's pretty clear to the league that you can't just talk the talk. You need to walk the walk. You need to have your investors lined up. You need to have your location, your site lined up. You need to have your timeline ready to go. And it's not to say that, the team or the group of people trying for expansion, they need to be pretty flexible in this, because the moment the NHL says go, they better be ready to go. You just don't know exactly when that's going to be. But being shovel ready, you hear that phrase a lot there from Mr. Krause and his group. They just want to know that should the NHL call them on a Thursday in July, that they're ready to go. They're ready to start putting this thing forward. So again, I say starting to heat up. Really what this should say is the NHL to Atlanta heating up for the final time. Is this the final burn that's going to get Atlanta in the conversation, in the mix? And you know what? Look, if this group ultimately does travel to New York at some point this summer to meet with the commissioner, Gary Bettman, I still think it's something that he mulls over, that the Board of Governors talks about for a bit of time. So I don't expect this to happen like really quick. But I do think that once a meeting happens and it becomes official and there's a little bit of research and study done on the presentation and what this group has, that from there on out it could move quick, and maybe we'll find something else out before the calendar year of 2025 is over. This is a long process, but just know that it might take a turn here with this group heading to New York to make their pitch for an expansion team. Let me know your comments about all of this situation down below. Really appreciate that. Also, thumbs up while you're down there. Helps me, this video, and this channel. And do not forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I would love to see you back here on the channel next time. Easiest way to do that is subscribe right now.